enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified of all future uploads, and check the description box below the video for important links and information. How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. This video I'm actually doing in conjunction with Shay of Prepper Logic and Morgan from Rogue Preparedness. And we're going to talk about the topic after we each make our respective videos. So check out Morgan on Rogue Preparedness channel and Prepper Logic channel. We're each going to make a video on the 5 preps, or most important preps, to take care of before the election here in the United States. Whereas even if you're in another country like Shay in Canada, the ramifications of massive civil unrest or any of the other economic and social turmoil that may result could affect you even if you're not in the United States. But certainly if you're in the United States, we will feel ramifications of this, especially with the now extra drama added to the election with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the sure to be really bitter fight for a new Supreme Court justice, or even a fight for deciding, if they're going to try and confirm one before the election. But regardless, I think we all know we're potentially in for a lot of turmoil leading up to and after the election. So this video is going to be my take on the 5 things, the 5 best preps to take care of before the election. So, I struggled a little bit with one aspect of this kind of topic challenge, and that is how weighted I should do basic preparedness stuff, because I talk a lot all the time, probably almost every video I mention, about like the commonality of disaster, how almost all disasters, your basic preps are going to be the most important things and they're going to carry over. So, in the interest of not making this video boring, going over the same things that you need to take care of, like food, water, a way to cook it, all that stuff, but also not, I'm talking to an audience of mostly preppers, so I don't want to be like, yeah, we know all this. What are things that we need to do specifically for this? But I also don't want to not mention it, so I've decided to make my first of the 5 things be your basic preparations. Having your basic preparations squared away within the next 45, 50 days, whatever we have left at the time of this video going live. So obviously most of us have some level of food preparation, some level of water, a way to purify it, but definitely now is the time to make sure that stuff is squared away, because my basic overall concern with the election is civil unrest, disruptions of the sort, kind of like we've been experiencing with the pandemic, where the best bet for dealing with it is probably staying in your house, not going to certain places in your city, maybe even leaving your immediate area in the event of civil unrest. So because of that, basically having your standard preparation squared away is one of the most important things you can do. So I'm going to just kind of lump that all together and put it in one spot. Square away your basic preps: food, water, a way to purify water, a way to cook or prepare your food, some level of protection, any medicines and toiletries and things you might need. That's all. That's prepping in a nutshell. Being able to do without outside systems of support for an extended period of time. I always have told everybody that my period of time is around 6 months, hopefully pushing that out to a year. But even if you have 14 days, 90 days, that will put you in a way, way, way better position than the vast majority of people on the planet. So that is number 1, and these aren't in any particular order of importance, but obviously getting your basic prep squared away is extremely important. So that's the first thing you should focus on, basic preps. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? Do you have your medical supplies? Do you have some level of self-defense equipment and capabilities? Do you have basic fitness? All that stuff that we always talk about. Make sure it's taken care of. Now's not the time to play around and put it off. So the second thing that I think preppers should take care of before the election is getting fire extinguishers or fire suppression equipment of various types. We've seen a lot of video footage of the civil unrest situations where people were throwing Molotov cocktails. We have the California wildfires, and it just seems to be that a very common element of a lot of different disaster scenarios, from earthquakes up to civil unrest and things like that, include fire as a potential threat. And it's something that's very hard to deal with if you don't have specialized equipment like fire extinguishers. You can get everything from these little countertop kitchen fire extinguishers that operate just like a can of spray paint or anything like that, good for grease and electric and things like that. And anything that I have in this video, to the extent that I have products or anything that I've mentioned, I'll put links in the description so you can check it out. These are good for indoors. I recommend getting, and what I'm going to do, I have some, real or regular fire extinguishers as well, but I really want to get a couple of the gigantic ones that have, a long time of spraying out the fire suppressant material. And that way, if you have something like a Molotov cocktail that gets smashed against your house, you can really do a good job of putting it out. And you want to keep one in your car if possible. And in an emergency, those could be used for other things as well, like maybe blasting a crowd of people, obscuring an escape, something like that. There's all sorts of different things you could do. We've seen footage of people lighting themselves on fire in these crowds of peaceful protesters. We've seen plenty of buildings burnt to the ground. We've seen the wildfires. Obviously, if you're at the edge of a forest and the entire forest is on fire, a fire extinguisher isn't going to do you much good, but maybe a stray ember or even just a regular fire that's happening for any of the other normal reasons during a situation where all the firemen are off doing something else, the response times are going to be really slow, maybe even non-existent, so you want to be able to deal with that stuff on your own. And keep in mind that there are different types of fires and there are different types of fire extinguishers that won't necessarily work for the other kind. I think it was City Prepper had a good video on fire extinguishers that he did years ago that or Urban Prepper, I forget which one it was, maybe Urban Prepper, but I'll link a decent video in the description explaining the different types of fire extinguishers. But that is my second recommended prep to take care of before the election, is to get fire extinguishers and fire protection, fire suppressing gear and equipment. My third recommended prep to take care of before the election is to withdraw cash and store it at your house. Like I said, the key elements, the key theme of preparing for leading up to the election for me is disruptions in our normal everyday life, or making sure you have the ability to hunker down. So that means being able to take care of transactions, whether you have to leave really quick, whether internet and electricity may be down in certain areas, maybe having to pay or transact with individuals more easily. And if you just have credit cards or debit cards and things like that, it's a lot easier to have that disrupted than if you also have a good supply of cash. You can use cash for a wide variety of purchases, transactions, and situations where it won't work to only have a credit card. So that's, again, that could be considered maybe a basic prep, but I think right now it's more important than usual to have cash, because we could see all sorts of businesses shutting down, your local bank, maybe if there's civil unrest, all sorts of economic turmoil. Obviously, could cause the need for cash to be greatly increased for short periods or maybe even long periods of time. I just don't see any bad consequences necessarily of getting your cash out of the banking system, having control of it yourself. And there may be some risk associated with having cash at your house. You could get robbed or whatever. That's a risk anyway, and certainly there's a risk with keeping your money in the bank, in the banking system. We've seen that happen before. So if you have even a halfway decent hiding place or safe or things like that, I think the risks of having cash at your house can be mitigated pretty easily, whereas the risk of having your cash completely in the banking system, well, those risks might seem low to some. There's nothing you can do to mitigate that risk other than get your money out of that system. So that's definitely what I recommend. I think just general turmoil, general disruption is kind of the theme of the next few months, next year or two. So get your money out of the systems that can be most easily disrupted. Take control of it yourself. So hoard that cash. Doesn't have to be large amounts of it. I think for most people, a couple $1,000 would probably be the max that you would want to have in cash. But I think you definitely want at least a few weeks, if not months, of expenses in actual physical cash that you have on hand, not just in your bank account. So I believe it's fourth item, prep to take care of before the election, I'm going to say specialty ammunition. Obviously, preppers are always into guns and ammo, so most of us should have basic defense taken care of, decent amount of ammo at least, even though it's really expensive right now. But one thing that a lot of preppers don't focus on, because it's normally not too much of a concern, but could become more of an issue or more of a necessity, is different types of specialty ammo. Everything from non-lethal rounds, which I have I keep my Shockwave here. I'm not going to show it so I don't get demonetized, but I have this rubber buckshot, and you can get other types of non-lethal ammunition. For shotguns is the easiest to find, but they make it for other things as well. Because like we've seen in a lot of these videos, things are getting weird. And like I've always mentioned before, we're not lucky enough to have a shit fan scenario where we don't have to worry about rule of law. We get a hybrid situation where the law isn't there to protect you, but it is there to hammer you after the fact with we've seen that with the Kyle Rittenhouse case and things like that, where you could be put in situations where you have no choice but to use self-defense. And then, in chaotic, literally shit the fan scenarios where none of the security or structure of rule of law is there to help you, but we still have all the structure of rule of law that's there to ruin your life, after the fact, which is unfortunate. So there's plenty of gray, questionable situations where you have to do something. Your life literally is in danger. You have to use some sort of force, but after the fact, there's still, you have to deal with the fact that you may be charged with murder or manslaughter or all sorts of things. So having different options other than just lethal is good. So you'd have a lot better luck surviving legally if you're not killing people, or you could always show that you were trying to use non-lethal self-defense even if someone did die. So the caveat to this, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, this is all informational purposes only, but you should never shoot anyone with anything, including non-lethal rounds, if you don't feel that you have justification for using lethal force, because someone could certainly die if you hit them in the face or the eye or the head or anywhere else really with that. It's certainly potential to cause grievous injury or death. But for the situations where you have to fear for your life, but you're worried that outside people or the police might not see it the way after the fact, then something like this might be more useful. Where your car is getting, or house is getting beset and beat up and maybe potential fires started by protesters. You're going to want to do something, most likely. You're going to probably fear for your life in that situation, but also realize that people watching video from their living rooms, 2 weeks later might be like, oh, why, you don't have fear for your life. They're not even armed or something like that, even though there's 10 people trying to smash your car to smithereens and do God knows what with you if they dragged you out. So something like pepper spray, like tasers, and certainly like non-lethal ammunition is good to go. I've contemplated getting a dedicated non-lethal shotgun, like a Maverick 88 or something like that, and use either painting or getting furniture and stock that's an entirely different color to totally eliminate any possible confusion of mixing lethal and non-lethal rounds. So definitely that's always something you want to watch out for. Right now I have my Shockwave exclusively loaded with non-lethal self-defense rounds, but having one that's like literally always just for that is an option as well. So let me know what you guys think about non-lethal rounds. And in addition to non-lethal rounds, specialty ammo can also include other things, like right here I have some Liberty Civil Defense 9mm, which is a specialty self-defense ammo that some people haven't even heard of. And it's unique because it has I bought these, they didn't give these to me or anything like that. They have a lathe-turned copper projectile that's like nickel-plated, I believe. So they're really strange-looking, very deep, hollow point there, which are incredibly light. And this shoots them at a blistering 2,000 feet per second. And it can still be fired off most regular 9mm handguns. I don't think it's usually even as rough on them as like a Plus P or something like that, with chamber pressure and whatnot. And actually the felt recoil is actually a lot less with these because the projectile is so light. It's I don't even remember how much. It's a 50 grain. So to keep in mind, the lighter end of the projectiles for 9mm usually starts at around 115 grain, and then you have your 124 grains and whatnot. But this is only a 50 grain projectile, so the felt recoil is a lot lower, but it sends that projectile 2,000 feet per second, which is so fast that can actually punch through a lot of 3A body armor that is rated for 9mm. So we've seen fundraisers by Antifa and things like that for body armor and protective equipment. So we know that these people have this stuff in their mind that, oh, we're going to gear up so that when we attack people, we're bulletproof and whatnot. So you may want to surprise them if you don't have, especially if you don't have a rifle, or if you're in a situation where you're like out and about, you're concealed carrying, can't carry a rifle, but you still want something that has that power that maybe if the bad guys are wearing bulletproof vests or something like that, it can punch through them. Just to give you an idea of how fast 2,000 feet per second is, a normal 124 grain 9mm bullets that I just mentioned travel to just over 1,000 feet per second. Kind of written down here, I'm not memorizing it. And 115 grains can go up as high as 1,100, maybe 1,200. Plus P ammo can range from 1,200 up to as high as like 15, maybe even 1,600. So 2,000 feet per second is incredibly fast. And even the 45 version of the Liberty Civil Defense shoots at like 1,900 feet per second, which is incredibly fast. A standard like range ammo 45 caliber bullet isn't even going to crack 1,000. So I don't believe that the 45 caliber Civil Defense is known to punch through ammo simply because of or punch through body armor like the 9mm, because the diameter is wider, so the surface area is greater. It's going to take more force to punch through. But specifically, the Liberty Civil Defense 9mm is known to be able to punch through standard 3A body armor. So I think specialty ammunition, like stuff like this, maybe like green tips, maybe like, different types of things other than just the cheapest ammo you can get. Think about why you're going to be using this ammunition, what different scenarios that you might come across, and it might behoove you to spend a few bucks, not the stuff to shoot at the range, but a few boxes of specialty ammunition for these crazy situations that may arise. All right, so my number 5 thing that I think is a pre-election prep that all preppers should take care of is, of course, body armor, which you've seen me mention in the but recently I've been mentioning it more and more because of all the civil unrest that you're seeing. And you may be saying, like, Eric, what the hell? You just talked about this ammunition that is able to punch through body armor. Well, funny you should mention it, because the, what's it called? Sorry, Safe Life Defense 3A Plus body armor, which I have here, is actually rated to stop civil defense, FN 57, and rounds like that are known to punch through regular 3A, as well as stab protection. And in addition, of course, I have the level 4 in conjunction with plates in the front, which can stop up to 30-06 steel core multiple strikes. So I'm not personally as worried about that type of ammunition, but it's exactly why you want to get good body armor, because bad guys might have stuff like this too. They might be shooting rifle rounds. That's a little less likely, but they certainly could have 9mm. They could have ammunition like the Civil Defense. It might punch through a regular 3A. So the 3A Plus is much better for that situation. I want something that I can wear around, maybe not all tactical like that. I can use the concealable carrier as well with the same panels. So if I'm going even just something like grocery shopping, if things get really bad, which is another reason why you don't want to have to leave your house and should store basic preps like food and water, so you don't have to leave your house in a situation like that. But there's, like I said, we're going to be in that weird limbo where it's the worst of both worlds, where you might have civil unrest really bad in one part of your city, but you still have to go to work. So what are you going to do? Or you might have to take public transportation still if you live in a big city, even to get the hell out. So you definitely want as much protection as you can, not just offensive protection like firearms, knives, things like that, but something that can actually physically protect your body, like body armor, like even things like gloves or decent shoes, But specifically body armor is, I think, often overlooked because it's not exciting. It can be fairly expensive, even though the vest that I've showed you can get the 3A Plus for starting at I believe $4.99 or $5.99 depending on the carrier. So really not that expensive, about the price of another gun. Most of us have multiple guns already, so before you buy another gun, I definitely recommend you get a good body armor that can protect against stabs, can protect against some of this specialty ammunition, as well as all the other threats, because this is one specific thing that we know is already happening: civil unrest, people getting shot, people getting stabbed, and we definitely all are probably assuming that it's going to be worse, significantly worse, leading up to and after the election, which is what this video is about. As usual, links will be in the description to stuff for Safe Life specifically. Obviously, you don't have to get that. I just recommend that you get something. But if you do decide to get theirs because of the extra protection, I can get you 10% off with the code RTW. But I definitely just recommend that you do something. Even I've talked about the plate carriers before, how I don't think they're as good as a full coverage vest. But even if you get a plate carrier because you're extremely limited by funds, or even if you just get the 3A or something like that, I definitely recommend you get something. Because luckily, specialty ammunition like that is fairly rare, so you're not likely to come across it, and it's not guaranteed to go through, depending on distances and other things that it might travel through. But I definitely think you should get the highest level of protection that you can, and I think you're worth it. I think my life is worth it. I think your life's worth it, and I definitely think that's something we should take care of in a time when civil unrest is on the menu. So those are my 5 preps for pre-election. Everything, 5 things that all preppers should try to take care of before the election. Let's go through it really quick. We have getting your basic preparations squared away: food, water, protection, medicine, toiletries, all that stuff. Having fire extinguishers and different types of fire suppression, fire protective equipment. Making sure that you have body armor. making sure that you have specialty ammunition. And what was my fifth one? Cash. Making sure you have cash. Let me know what you guys think and what your 5 would be, and I'm excited also to see what Che and Morgan, what their videos are. So subscribe to their channels as well. Links will be in the description to everything I've talked about, including their channels. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you later.